Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Somerville Historic Preservation Commission. This is our monthly meeting. It's September 21st, 2021, 6:47, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I want to read the boilerplate here. It's pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation. An audio recording of these proceedings will be available upon request to historic@somervillema.gov. And I guess we customarily introduce ourselves, so let's just go around my screen and let people know who we are. Mr. Bauer.
Oh, you're on.
Are you there? I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. I always forget to turn on my mute and then I forget to turn it off again. I'm Dick Bauer and I'm an attorney. I was trained as a city planner and I live in Spring Hill.
Okay, Mr. Falvey.
I'm Ryan Falvey, a resident of Ward 2.
Vice Chair Kelly.
I'm Robin Kelly, and I'm the Realtor representative on the board. I'm also on the commission. I'm also a historic homeowner in Union Square.
And Mr. Wiley.
I am Adam Wiley. I'm a resident of Ward 2, and I am a contractor and construction manager.
And I'm Eric Parks, resident of Ward 3. I'm an architect. And we have staff here. Oh, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Still can't hear you.
There. Wendy, we're not hearing you.
We had it just a moment ago, so we know it was working.
Yeah. Click something somewhere.
Yeah.
We could proceed, but I think we probably should make sure we're all on tap here before, unless you want to say anything. No. All right. Okay, well, we're just going to go through the cases. The first, we're going to address the demolition cases first. And the first case on our agenda is HPC DMO 2021.19 1516 Winter Hill Circle. The applicant is Raymond Snow. Owner is Raymond Snow. And the project is demolished principal structure. Do we have Mr. Snow here?
This is Charlotte speaking. We have Cynthia Snow, and I believe Ann Vigorito may be the attorney for this case. I have unmuted both of them.
Okay. Welcome, both of you. Would you like? You there?
Good evening. Also, I'm joined by the architect, Damon Siddell. If he could be unmuted as well at this time, that would be great.
Damon is also unmuted.
Thank you, Charlotte. Good evening, everyone. Before you this evening regarding the demo of 1516 Winter Hill Circle. As I stated, I'm also joined by Damon Siddell, our architect, as he can describe what the proposal is for the site. As I read through the report, and I really enjoy these staff reports, I think Wendy, I think Sarah a lot of times because, you know, there's a lot of history and it's an enjoyable read. But that being said, you know, I look at the building and I'm not an architect, I'm only a lawyer. And I say to myself, there's just so much going on here. It's very busy. If that's a good word. I mean, it's a simple word. The building itself appears in good structure. And a lot of it's because all of the original details of this building have been stripped. There's nothing original. There's siding on here now, the windows, everything. I mean, I'm gonna send it off to Damon because he's got a list of the things, since as an architect, he's been out to this site several times and he can give you more details regarding that. And also, we're not sure about any structural issues at this time. I guess if it was deemed significant, before we came before you on the preferably preserved component, we would want to get into the meat of that, as Damon and I have had a discussion in the past week about that. But I'd like Damon, he has some more details regarding the the structure and some of the things that have been stripped, and then he'll give a brief synopsis of what the proposal will be.
Thank you, Ann. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for the confirmation. I'm Damon Seidel. I'm an architect and a resident of Somerville on Prospect Hill. So just to follow up on what Ann was saying and add my own observations about the building style and architecture. Excuse me, and I did also enjoy the report. I actually just found one of the old lists of residents for my own house on Grandview Ave, which was very fun to find out who used to live here and what they did. Certainly outside of its overall massing, which the report notes seems to be some smaller additions and maybe an addition on the side that could or could not have been recorded in one of the maps. All the architectural details that may have been there have been stripped and replaced with inexpensive, simple, modern materials like vinyl siding and asphalt shingles, vinyl windows. Just in the report, I saw that, and I had been out to the site and walked around it a number of times. We hadn't done an interior survey because our plan had been to demolish it. And so we haven't had the structural survey yet, but I often personally try to convince my clients to retain, rehab, or reintroduce stylistically appropriate architectural details in the projects I work on. And although I don't specialize in historic preservation architecture, I very much appreciate and frequently work in historic styles. That said, I don't see this building's historic significance architecturally and noted in the report socially with any individual or event having to do with the building. With respect to our proposal for what would replace it and what we would present to you, should it be deemed significant, and we would have to go to the October meeting. But one way or another, we would be presenting redevelopment of the two lots, 15 and 16, planning what I think is a modest condominium building, partly because of the zoning, some of the zoning things, which I don't think are relevant, but I'd be happy to talk about. Very briefly, the proposal is for a 3-story building with 6 2-bed, 2-bath units. I'm trying with my design, with the support and encouragement of my clients, the Snows, to create an attractive architecture with a thoughtful character of its own. And a few of the smaller details that we're planning to include, smaller, some of them programmatically, additional outdoor roof deck amenity spaces to supplement the small rear yard for each of the units, since private space is at a premium here in Somerville. We're also just outside, literally the first property outside the walk shed in this area. So we would be required to provide parking, and we'd be including infrastructure for electric car charging, for instance, as some of the things that we'd like to have as better than minimum, for sure. And it also will have 1 unit of affordable housing requirement. 1.2, I believe, is the requirement per the new zoning, and so we'll be providing that as well. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions you have about the existing or from my experience observing it from the outside at this point, or proposed building as I understand them, but I'll end my remarks there.
Damon, anything else you all want to add to the presentation?
And no, I think, I'd be the first one to say, oh, this building is beautiful. I don't know what we're going to argue about, but I think I wanted to be clear and concise on our points, and I know we look forward to hearing from the board on their thoughts on this.
Well, let's open it up to the commission then and just go around. I guess I'd defer to you all. First, if you want to chair it, to chime in here. Any thoughts or questions?
We just get clarification on the actual location. The staff report site says 1516 Woodbine Circle, and the report says 1516 Winter Hill Circle. So I'm just curious which one it is.
It is indeed Winter Hill Circle. So it's the two lots at the end of a dead end, a short
Okay.
dead end Winter Hill Circle next to the abandoned Walgreens parking lot.
Right.
And right in front of the well care, urgent care building.
Yep, great,
Right-
thank you.
Right in that lot.
Yes, I believe that was a typo. You could hear me this time?
Yes. I hear you. Any thoughts?
I'll chime in. This is Robin. Sorry, Dick.
Go ahead.
Step over you. So while we can see that there unfortunately are not any of the original details to the building, the roof lines and dormer shapes and things are still there, and it is very clearly an old historic structure. Elements of Greek revival in there, transitioning to Queen Anne. It's such a funny looking building because it's not like anything I've seen in Somerville or necessarily elsewhere. So it's an interesting transitional style, and the fact that it's an attached kind of multi-unit structure, but it does seem like the original, largely original form and massing is there, and the interesting dormers and roof lines and things I think are worth preserving.
Thank you. Dick, you were going to say something.
Yes, so I was going to, in light of the things that Vice Chair Kelly mentioned, I wanted to hear more from the applicants about why this building can't be saved when there seems like there's so much historic fabric there, and the scale and massing are not, it doesn't sound like, too inconsistent with what your plans are.
Sure. So in terms of the scale of the plans, it's currently 2 units, right? Attached units. I actually think that there's 3. There's 2 on one side and 1 on the other. And as Vice Chair Kelly noted, it is interestingly kind of transitional and not of, it looks a little bit it's not an easy building to inhabit with much else than what's there is basically what it comes down to. And the Snows would like to have something that is more in keeping with, we were working off of the zoning that's there. It's been upzoned to UR on one site and MR5 on the other. And so there's a clear desire to make this part of the strip of Broadway more dense. And there's some buildings that are there along Broadway that already there's on the other side of the plaza, there's a 4-story brick apartment building, condo building, for instance, and there's many of those along the strip, quite a few of them that are of that nature. That seems to be what the city zoning is pushing for, and we were trying to use that as the impetus for the new development. And interestingly enough, because of that split zoning, It's actually seems like the more dense MR5 zone, they wanted to like give it over to the plaza, the shopping plaza, but that's part of this site. It's this weird L-shaped site. And so it's that in its current configuration, I suppose that a different developer might have come in and might choose to inhabit it the way that it is. That wasn't the brief that I was given, and the desire was for something that fit the zoning that is there, the new zoning that's there.
Thank you. Did I understand it correctly? So this site is split into two different zoning districts then? UR and
Yeah, it is. And we've struggled with that from the beginning. I'm happy to tell you a little bit more about the interactions I've had with city planning about it that date back to before the new zoning, and what we could use, what we could use this, do to it. And it wasn't until multiple applications of the DRA, actually, when the first intake that I did through the first type of system, that I didn't get any feedback on after many calls. The second one in the new, it's not new to many of developments, but it was when I applied the second time, the portal. They did respond after many weeks after that. And that's when we got this notice of having to apply for the demolition review, et cetera. But during all of that, yes, we have gone back and forth with the city planners and wondered, it was my understanding that they tried to eliminate all split sites, right? And this one is a split site naturally because there's an attached house, two attached units, structure on spanning the property line, and they were trying not to zone them separately. And I still don't understand the logic for why they got split. We're essentially using the urban residential zone plot, which is number 16, for the building, and in order to make the development work the way that we think balances out the putting a useful building there and having the parking that we need because we're outside of the walk shed. The parking's on the MR5, which is an absolutely skinny site. It's very difficult to use that with a structure, which we tried figuring out how to do that before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who else? Anybody else want to add anything? Mr. Wiley or Mr. Foley? I'm not sure if you've spoken up.
I'd be curious how it fits in like the context of the neighborhood. Like what other, I haven't been up there, walked around there and specifically seen this, but what are the other properties in the neighborhood look like? I'm just curious if there's any relationship with them.
Sure, I can talk a little bit to that. This building is kind of embedded in the middle of a lot of different things because of the one-way street and being at the end of the one-way street. So it's next to this big open parking lot next to the no longer Walgreens and some of the other buildings in that plaza.
Yeah.
In front, behind the urgent care, well care building that I mentioned. The ones along Broadway that are on either side of it are larger 4-story brick apartment or condo buildings that have a nice presence on that. And then to its back are more 1 and 2 and some 3-family buildings that are more in keeping with this. So it's kind of a transition between the two. And it zoning wise, it does back up to neighborhood residents and in our zone. And so this is kind of like, and along Broadway, it's on the 16 is part of the UR that's along Broadway that stretches and ends in the transitions from the MR5 zone that goes all the way down to the park. Okay. So this is very much like packed right into the middle of all of that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Adam Wiley. I guess I'll just echo. I think it's kind of a tough one for me, but I think going back to what Vice Chair Kelly had said, yeah, I think the massing is enough to potentially deem this significant, but I do have trouble with the architectural detail being removed, and I'm not convinced that the streetscape, it is odd. I've driven by, and also when you kind of cruise around Google Maps, having the Walgreens parking lot there, I'm not convinced that this plays an important role in a streetscape or the surrounding environment. So I think these are probably discussions if this were to move on. But I think, you know, the massing is probably enough to deem this significant, in my opinion. But I think there's some other things that are missing.
Thank you. Yeah, I went out there today, and I kind of concur with that. It's not, obviously, it didn't have anybody famous living there, except we're all famous in our own minds. And it didn't have, it wasn't part of a streetscape. It didn't belong to a pattern or a rhythm. That it didn't have that aspect to it. So I think it's really, as Robin mentioned, that the massing is pretty much what's there. It's kind of a funky massing. It's kind of hard to tell to what extent it started that way. I know that our staff report kind of goes into detail about how that came to be. And as Damon Pent pointed out, it's been stripped or covered any outside detail. There are no windows, the siding's covered up. So it's kind of hard to tell what remains of that, but beneath it is the massing, the roof lines and all that. So that's where I'm with it. Anybody else want to add anything, or should we go to a vote on that?
Chair, if I may interject,
Sure.
you still need to take public comment on this item.
Oh, that's right. We're doing public hearings for significance now. Yes. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak?
This is Charlotte speaking. We have one member so far. For anyone who has not been to an HPC meeting before, the way that you indicate that you wish to speak is by using the raise your hand button, and that will let staff know that you wish to speak and we can unmute you. Seth Hurwitz, you are unmuted. But you'll need to unmute yourself as well. There we go.
The microphone button. I would agree with the comment that the building is not a part of the streetscape, really. I mean, this is really tucked back behind a parking lot. You walk down Broadway and you don't really see it at all. I apologize because I missed out earlier in the meeting, but how many units are the owners proposing to add in place of, is it 2 units that are currently there?
It's currently 3 units. One side of the structure has 2 units in it, and one side has 1. And it's as you can see from the pictures, it's a 2.5-story structure. We're proposing, the owners are proposing to have 6 units. The footprint of which would be bigger as allowable by the UR zoning. It would only be 3 stories, so it wouldn't be that much bigger, that much taller. Except that the requirements now actually favor having taller floor-to-floors and sometimes require it depending on what the existing is and comparing those. So 6 units, 2 on each floor, 3 stories.
Thank you for that information. I would just add, I think that sounds wonderful. I live just across Broadway from the property. And I think that seeing additional units get added along that corridor would be a tremendous benefit in place of whatever historical significance there might be. Thank you.
Thank you. And since we have the public here, just to remind, I don't think we went through the nuts and bolts of this process, but this is a significance hearing where we really focus only on the significance of the structure in its own right. Like, is there enough about it that matters? And if it gets voted yes to that question, the next hearing is what we call a preferably preserved hearing, where we begin to weigh alternatives. It's preferable that it be preserved because of its condition or because of its potential use of the site. Or also, there are other factors that can play into it. So our purview in this particular stage is a little more limited to strictly to the building itself. And it doesn't really consider what would go in its place. That would be something that is more addressed in the next hearing. Anything else? I missed anything?
No, that covers it. Thank you for the clarification there. My apologies, this is my first Historic Preservation Commission meeting.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for virtually showing up. And commission, is anybody else who wants to weigh in, or should we go to a vote?
Chair Parks, this is Charlotte speaking. There does not appear to be anyone else interested in commenting on this case.
Well, we'll close the public hearing part of this case, if we call it that, and bring it back to our commission. Anybody else want to add anything, other thoughts on this? I don't really personally. I agree that with Mr. Wiley, you know, it may or may be significant, but whether it's preferably preserved is an entirely different matter, and there are other factors that might make me feel less inclined. That's another phase. So let's go to a vote then. All in favor of declaring this 15/16 Winter Hill Circle preferably, significant, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it looks like it's unanimous. Let's go through the roll call. Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Alvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
and I would vote yes as well on that. So it's that's it. Now we need to address findings for that. I believe we do those now for significance hearings. So let's pull up the staff report. And generally we start off with the staff report. Findings. Sorry, I'm just doing some scrolling here.
The findings can be found on page 10.
I see, okay. I would incorporate your findings there. Importantly associated with the architectural history of the city, largely because it's remaining massing and form as reflecting its style. Somewhat distinct character. It's a bit unique in its style there. Is there anything else in the findings anyone would like to add to this?
No, for me, it's really just the massing. I think that's all.
I agree.
All right. So let's take a vote on adopting that then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go through the group. Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
All right. I believe that's everything for this hearing. So what we'll do next week or next meeting is have a public hearing for the preferably preserved status, and then we'll see you then.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you all.
Good evening.
The next case is HPC DMO 2021.20, 16 Woodbine Street. It's a demolition of principal structure. Applicant is Sal Carusio. Owner is Mark R. and Jill T. Ardolino. Are any of those people here today?
This is Charlotte speaking. I do not see anyone with those names, so if the applicant could raise their hand, I can unmute you. I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand. Wendy, would you know of the list of people who may be the most likely candidate for the applicant?
So I am looking at my email communication right now to find their names.
Mr. Carusio usually comes himself to present, so I would not expect somebody to be here for him. Mr. Chair, if I could suggest we hold this on the agenda and take cases for people who are here
Sure.
and deal with this one later.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Let's proceed next to case HPC Alt 2021.48, 8 Aldersey Street. Installation of rear pergola. Applicant is HKF Construction. Owner is Judith Klausner. Are any of those people here tonight?
Same with the previous. If you were the applicant, yes, Judith Klausner. Judith, you are unmuted. But you'll need to unmute yourself as well. Once your microphone turns green, that means we can hear you, but right now it is red, which means we cannot hear you. Judith, if you look at your, there you go.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just emailing with our contractor, and it sounds like there was a miscommunication with her. She didn't understand the digital format meeting, so she is not here with us today. I am. Sorry, I'm not exactly sure how this goes. I thought she was going to be the one presenting.
Well, we have the staff report on it, and it's a pretty straightforward. Do you just want to explain briefly what you'd like to do, the project?
Yes. We would like to build a small pergola, shade structure, Victorian shade structure to our part of our back porch. I have a disability that makes me very, very sensitive to sun. And so putting up this shade structure would allow me to actually use the outside space that we have on our home and to get more fresh air, which would be a really great thing. And as a sort of nerdy fangirl of Victoriana, I am pleased that there is a Victorian in keeping shade structure that we could propose for the addition to our home.
Okay. Thank you. Commission, anybody have any questions or want to comment? You're muted, Mr. Wiley.
All right, sorry about that. The first thing I'm trying to figure out, and maybe other, we always consider how much of this is really visible from a public way, and this is obviously the rear of the house. So I think it has less of an impact on the overall character of the house than something that were to be right in the front. So I'm maybe as an owner, you can give an idea of how much. I imagine you'd kind of see the corner of it from the street, but I guess my only point being that since it is in the back, I feel a little bit less strongly that it greatly impacts the house.
Mr. Wiley, if I can, the visual impact will be from the rear. The building is on top of a hill, so it should be visible from Hillside Park on the rear. But yes, from the front, it will be minimally visible, if visible at all.
Okay. Thank you.
I know from walking up the hill to our home and looking to see if I could see the porch, that it seemed to be visible from a couple of spots walking up Walnut and not walking up Final, and not from the front.
And only because our neighbors lost that beautiful
I
tree
know.
last year.
It was such a
Oh.
beautiful tree.
All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I live nearby and I walk by there, and there's nothing not to like. It's way in back. It's very minimally visible. The design is sympathetic with the architecture. So to me, that sort of everything's fine about this particular project. There's a need for it.
Yeah, I don't have a concern, and it's also something that could at a later date be removed and would not in any way impact the original historical nature of the building itself.
Anybody else? Thoughts? No? We're ready to go for a vote on this?
Chair, if I may, you need to take public comments on this item.
Oh, we're doing it on everything now. Okay. Any member of the public want to speak about this?
As a reminder, if you wish to speak, the way that you indicate that is by raising your hand, and that will let us know and we can unmute you. I am not seeing anyone indicating that they would wish to speak. And still no hands are up. Chair Parks,
Right.
It looks like no one wishes to speak.
Okay, then let's proceed with a vote unless anyone else wants to add anything. Which I don't see any sign of that looking at your faces. So let's go for it. All in favor of approving this proposal for 8 Aldersley Street? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye, I say aye as well. Yeah. Okay, let's go through the roll call. Mr. Bauer.
Yes.
Falvey.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
And I, Eric, vote yes as well. Yeah. So there you have it. Enjoy your project. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is the applicant for 16 Woodbine here yet?
This is Charlotte speaking. Sal Crucio is here and he is unmuted.
Okay, let's bump back then to HPC DMO 2021.20 16 Woodbine Street. We have the applicant Sal Crucio. Sal, would you like to tell us what you're doing here?
Sal, you are unmuted on our end, but you will need to unmute yourself as well. Your microphone icon will currently be red, which means we cannot hear you. And if you click it, it should turn green, which will mean that we can hear you. Val, you are still unmuted on our end and still muted on your end.
I don't know if this helps, but when the meeting first started up, I had an issue where there was a pop-up dialog box that I wasn't seeing that asked me how I wanted to listen to them. So it was sort of upstream from whether I was muted or not. But the only technical advice I can give in this situation.
This is Charlotte speaking. If I may suggest possibly going on to the next case while he attempts to unmute himself.
Okay.
Sure.
Fair enough. Let's move then to HPC Alt 2021.45, which is 36 Cherry Street. Applicant Mark Colling, owner Jared Floyd, and the project is the alterations to a garage structure. Is anybody here from that project?
This is Charlotte speaking. Gregory Colling is here and is unmuted. Gregory, same advice as Sal. Oh, you got it.
Hi, my name is Greg Colling. I'm an architect with Merrimack Design Architects. I've been helping the owner, Jared Floyd, with renovations to their house and the restoration of their 1890 shingle-style Victorian house since 2004. And we're currently working on a project to replace the siding on the garage and remove the vinyl door and the plastic louvers and replace them with materials that are more appropriate and in keeping with the details of the main house. So I think there's a misunderstanding on the part of the HPC regarding the report that was submitted. It says that the structure was built between the late 19th century and 1934. We have an email letter. I'm not sure if the commission has it, but it describes, there's an email from the next door neighbor who grew up in the house. He's 70 years old. And the structure was, the original garage that was on that property was removed sometime, he thinks, in the 1970s. And the work on this building, which you can see from the photographs, is clearly new. It's not particularly old. And the framing is new framing in that building. And there's also half-inch plywood, which wouldn't date from the 1930s. So we're looking to replace the door with a more appropriate door that's just solid panels, and then remove the plastic louvers, remove the aluminum siding and the aluminum K-gutters, and put on new trim, new Spanish cedar trim, with backband moldings that are the same as what we've used on the main house. And then we're insulating the building so that it can be used for storage and also as a workout room. So that's basically it. So we feel that it's a non-contributing structure and we're making an improvement to it. It's also it's not of any particular historic value. I'm a preservation architect. I'm on the Council of Historic New England, and I'm on their preservation committee. And I review historic structures all the time. And in my opinion, this building will be making improvements to it, not taking away historic fabric.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from your group there want to add to the discussion? Okay. Things I usually forget. Oh, Vice Chair Kelly.
So I have a question. If there is new information that is available about the actual age of the structure, and if it can be verified that the structure does date from the 1970s or thereabouts, which would put it outside of our purview. Question to Mr. Bauer, Ms. Chekowitz, anyone who may know, because the primary structure on the property is historic, does that mean any outbuilding comes under our purview, or only those that are 75 or more years old?
So Massachusetts doesn't allow for non-contributing and contributing buildings. So either way, this would have to come before you. The difference would be what would be appropriate versus what wouldn't be appropriate would be the difference. But it would still come before you for all of these changes that are visible from the right of way.
Okay, thank you.
We have I have a copy of an email that was sent by the neighbor. And it was sent on September 17th to the HPC. Do you not have a copy of that?
Let me look. Was it sent to the historic at email?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Was it sent to the historic at email or to me or to Sarah White?
It was sent at the historic at somervillemass.gov.
Let me look through. I did not go through those emails today. As public comment, but written public comment needs to be submitted a week before.
Right.
Let me take a look.
Well,
So just to recap,
that's why an email was sent, so that we could get it in and get it on the record. If you'd like, I can read it so that it's on the record.
Well,
Yes, I just found it.
This is Adam Wiley speaking. I guess I might have misunderstood, but I think based on Vice Chair Kelly's question and the clarification, I guess in my mind, it doesn't matter when that was built because we're considering the primary structure and this is a accessory building, and our purview is to what, I guess in my mind, I personally don't think it matters when the garage was built, because we still need to consider it as part of the property. Is that correct?
Correct. It would just be if your findings on the door or the gutters would change things like that. I can share my screen with the email, or I can send it to you. Let me read it. Yeah. So the second paragraph, the author of the letter says that they saw it personally come down from and it was in the 70s. So if that affects your decision on the door, the copper gutters, or there's a vent being removed, that's the only difference that would be notable in your review.
I should note that the building, may I speak?
yes.
I should note that the building just is not compatible with the historic house, the main house that's on the property. It doesn't even look like it belongs on the property with the white aluminum K gutters and the brown aluminum siding. You all have photographs of it. So what we're doing is simply just trying to make it look like it belongs on the property and make it more aesthetically attractive and follow the similar shingle style details that we've used on the main house, including the half round copper gutters. There's a kitchen addition on the back of the house that has copper half round gutters. And in my mind, they're really not particularly, won't be visible from a right of way because you're looking at the gable end and you'll just see the end of the copper gutter that at the corners.
Okay. And just to back up a little bit, so the deal is that there was an outbuilding there before that was ripped down and this replaced it, is what this email says?
Yes.
Okay. Before I forget, should we take public comment now?
Preferably before discussion, yes, you should take public comment.
Let's do that. Let's open up to the public. Anybody want to speak?
This is Charlotte speaking. If you wish to make a comment on this project, please raise your hand and we will unmute you so that you can speak. I'm going to give it a couple of more seconds, but I'm not seeing anyone with their hand raised. And no one has their hand raised at this time.
Right. So let's close the public portion of this case. Anybody in the commission want to add anything to this discussion?
I did. So I understand about why you want to put on shingles similar to the house and change the gutters. But I was looking at, if I'm understanding it correctly, the proposed garage door, which to my eye looks very modern. Maybe I'm not seeing it the right way. So I wanted to ask about that. It seemed inconsistent with what the rest of your plans were.
Well, in my opinion, a faux garage with panels that's stamped metal is would look worse than having a simple planar 3-piece overhead door. And I've used these on other projects, and if you want to make a garage door that's historic, that's quite an expensive endeavor to do that. You'd have to have a custom garage door made that's well over $10,000. And that's, I find that just having a simple panel door, it looks, it will have a painted finish and it will look like a wood solid panel door. And there isn't an alternative without going through a significant cost increase.
Thank you.
So I drove by and walked by, and I agree that the massing of this thing was kind of an anomaly because it didn't really belong to your traditional outbuilding for a building of that sort in the front. It seemed to me like there's probably a newer building than that, but in general, yeah, reshingling, siding. I'm not a huge fan of copper half-round gutters on residential buildings just because it wasn't really done that much. But in that you have it elsewhere in the property, and as you said, it's so far from the street. I don't really have a big issue with that, especially since this is not a building. I guess it gets into a philosophical question of to what extent this structure should be dolled up to look like an older outbuilding. So it could kind of slice it either way. You could say, yes, it should look as historically correct as possible. I don't think we'd want to have it reflect 1970s aesthetic values because it's kind of there already and we don't like it. So I'm okay with everything else. The garage door situation, I did feel like that was a total anomaly for what you're doing. Like, why go to the effort of having new backband molding and all that kind of stuff just to put a generic sectional metal garage door? It seemed kind of odd. I get that I would not go to bother with the expense of having a wood, ye old kind of garage door put on there, but I almost wonder if this is a good application for something that at least simulates panels. So from the street, when you walk by, it looks like it's not just an expanse of white.
Well, the door, I should note that the main house has black aluminum storm windows, and we have the color black that we've used on the house, and this door would be black, so it would look like a void. And I don't think I would be able to find a panel door for that garage that would look appropriate. I mean, they're usually pressed metal, and their profiles are flattened, and they're not. I think that they look worse than just keeping it simple.
This is
No,
this
it's
is Adam Wiley. Sorry, this is Adam Wiley speaking. I'm looking at the. I guess is the existing door currently some kind of faux? Do we know the material of the existing garage door?
It's vinyl.
It's vinyl. Okay, it's hard to tell from distance. Okay, thank you.
What do the rest of you think about this?
Robin, the door is really the only thing that's given me pause. Well, that and the copper gutters, but the vast expanse of black, I understand that the idea of erring on the side of simplicity. So I don't love it, but I guess I don't fully hate it. And it's, it's hard to imagine, as you said, dolling up a 70s structure or something that's likely not historic to try to Disneyfy it. So I don't quite know where to go with this.
Yeah.
I guess for me, this is Adam Wiley again. For me, if I look at the picture from the street on page 1, and then I'm scanning down to look at the proposed garage door on page 21, I guess I'm kind of leaning towards, I think you're far enough away from it that it will just look more like a dark void. I don't know if you'll even really perceive of the horizontal panels or the metal aspect because of how far away it is. I guess if it was right up front on the street, it'd feel a little differently, but it is set back, and I think the darker color would help it kind of just go away. It's my latest thinking on it.
Okay. It is set way back from the street. When I walked by, I felt like whatever gets done there will seldom really get noticed.
Yeah,
So-
it's down a hill from the street. So you don't even see the bottom of the garage doors from the street. I just also want to clarify, the intent here isn't to doll this up and to make it look like, a historic, mimic of the house. We're just trying to make it compatible with the main house. There's no intention to make it look fancy or Disneyfy that building.
No, and my comment was not suggesting that that's what you were aiming for. It was whether the recommendations that we make, whether it would be, whether that's a worthwhile or appropriate goal for us. And I don't think it is.
It is not. I wouldn't think so.
Because it feels, strange on a not historic structure, although the property itself, the main structure, is a lovely historic building. So, but not to suggest that you were attempting to Disneyfy it.
Okay, I misunderstood. I'm sorry. The owner was unfortunately not able to attend this evening, but he's very house proud. They are interested in the history of the house and what is that?
Mr. Bauer, could you mute I think there may be a plane behind you or something.
So the owner was not able to attend, unfortunately, this evening. He's traveling, and he's very house proud. We've applied in 2009 for a preservation award, which they were given for the work that's been done on the main house. We're planning on doing additional work. We're going to be restoring the stone wall on the front of the house, which was cut through with the center entranceway. And we're going to be restoring that to the original. We're going to be removing all of the Portland cement from the mortar joints and restoring that wall. So that's the next, one of the next projects that we're looking forward to doing. So in my mind, the garage project was, we were just, again, looking to make this compatible with the architecture of the main house.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would Mr. Bauer, Mr. Falvey, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think the darker door may help the garage just recede more into the background. I think the main house looks beautiful, and it may blend a little bit more with it instead of standing. It looks as though the car's in the way, but the white door looks as though it just draws more, perhaps maybe draws more attention to the garage structure than may be the case with the darker door. So I don't feel strongly about it, but I'm fine with what's proposed.
Thank you, Ryan.
And I think I come out in the same place on it. I don't particularly like the door, but I understand the constraints that you're operating under. And there's certainly a good argument that on a building, which is a modern building, that an artificially antique door, Disneyfied, as the vice chair said, would be inappropriate. So I'm okay with this.
Okay. I'm of that mindset too. Given the age of this outbuilding and its exposure, that it's certainly not something where we would require a wood historic garage door.
Right.
And there's a philosophical argument about whether it's better to look something somewhat mundane and pedestrian or have something that's like the vinyl door that's basically fake panels. And I think in this case, I'm okay with this. So we're ready to vote?
If I can, Chair, when you vote, can you make sure to make clear if you're approving the garage door as is and the gutters as is, so that I can know later when we look at the minutes to remove those conditions from the end of the report?
Okay. Let me just pull that back up here.
I believe it's 4 through 6, technically 5 and 6, which has it being made of aluminum, and I think wood being applied to the garage door, a wood veneer, so we can remove those if you vote for those items as is.
Page 4. All right,
It is
so
on page
let's
6.
I mean, we could, yes, let's do that in conjunction with voting on, we could vote on everything as a whole with modifications. I don't think this is the kind of case where we need to pick it apart piece by piece. The conditions, okay. So just to recap, I think we are okay with allowing the gutters to be copper as proposed, as opposed to the aluminum recommendation that was in the staff report. Is that correct? I guess we'll know when we vote. And the same thing with the garage door. Does anybody have any thoughts on whether we should vote on this as a whole with the clarifications or take the scope individually?
I'd say do it as a whole. Does anyone have any comments about the gutters specifically? Okay, yeah, then.
I can comment on the gutters. We've changed the fascia on the garage. It now has a Cyma molding, so it wouldn't be appropriate to attach a K gutter which replicates the Cyma molding. So that's why we use the hanging copper gutter instead of an aluminum K gutter. So you can see the profile of the edge of the roof. And that also, that same cymatium runs up the gable ends as well. It's continuous. So there'll actually be two different profiles. so that it's correct, architecturally correct.
Oh, so you're gonna miter them together, the two?
Yes. Yeah, we'll
Great.
get the Simon Moldings from John Moriarty.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's good about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know. I've worked with John for over 20 years.
All right. So that, yeah, I see your point then. A half round gutter shape allows the character of the eave itself to read through. And I've done that before.
And also
Okay.
they have better, a metal gutter has more capacity than putting on a wood, a Boston gutter on the building. Wood gutters are being phased out because they no longer can keep up with the rainfall. So.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
Let's vote on this then. All in favor of approving the proposal for 36 Cherry Street with the changes we've discussed to the conditions, allowing the metal sectional garage door and the copper half-round gutters, say aye.
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 Let's go roll call. Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
and Eric vote yes as well. And I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Is there a 30-day waiting period now before we can get a permit to complete the work?
So that's not technically 30 days. What the issue is you'll have to wait for staff to be able to produce a decision, and then you will need to submit the decision to ISD. And I would say it can take a couple weeks for staff to issue a decision because of workload.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Should we go back to 16 Woodbine? Do we have our applicant?
This is Charlotte speaking. Sal Crucio is no longer on the list. It appears that he has left.
He
All right.
also sent me an email saying he just can't open the audio. So I would suggest putting his item last in case he's able to connect for the end of the meeting today. And we can take on 33 Warren in the meantime.
Okay.
And for this, I am at a butter, and so I will be recusing myself from hearing this case.
Okay, the next case is HPC Alt 2021.50, which is 33 Warren Avenue. The case is the retroactive commission approval for removal of exterior feature visible from a public way. And the applicant is 33 Warren Ave LLC. Is 33 Warren Ave LLC here?
Attila Jabor is here and is unmuted. If anyone else is here for the team, please just raise your hand and I will unmute you.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Great. So this is our third time back, and I just wanted to start off by saying I'm a little frustrated with what happened. I went for, as you guys know, I was back in front of the board end of April. I was looking for my certificate of appropriateness, and at that point we had some issues with the walkway, driveway / some other things. And after we complied with those things, I was then told that since we were given approval to change the front door, I was now required to change the front door to get my final certificate of appropriateness. And as I did so, I took out all that was infilled in the original frame, found salvage doors up in Maine, installed them thinking I was doing a great thing. And next thing I know is I was not able to get my certificate of appropriateness because of a transom that would not have been I'm sorry, there's a background. Can you just remove it or turn it off? And so, long story short, I reached out to the head of ISD, who also came out with Hans to verify that what I did install was appropriate. I was given my final certificate of occupancy, and I see now that the staff report is once again talking about a transom that was retrofitted into an opening that didn't really fit with it anyhow and wasn't part of the approvals. I took multiple pictures of doors on that street, none of which has a transom or any fan light, and just looking for my certificate of appropriateness. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I believe you're muted.
Yes, I am. All right, sorry about that. I just was saying thank you. Anybody else that you want to have speak with you, or you it?
No, thank you.
Okay, sure. Members of the public, this is a public hearing. Anybody want to, or public meeting?
This is Charlotte speaking. I do not see anyone raising their hand, and there are only 2 other individuals apart from the applicant in the audience.
So let's take it up with the commission. Mr. Bauer, Mr. Falvey, Mr. Wiley, what are your thoughts on this?
My inclination is that the fan light was not original to the building and was not appropriate, but I wanted to ask you, Chair, what your thoughts were on that.
Sure. Yeah, I walked by, and yes, it should have been before us to remove that because it is a relatively old feature. However, I mean, there's that. If this were a blank slate project and someone came to us with this proposal to remove that, what was in that picture with the fan light and the kind of crappy door, and install instead the 2 salvage doors, I would lean towards approving that. There'd be a little bit of grief because I'm not absolutely certain that the fan light wasn't there, but it just stylistically, I highly doubt that doorway ever had that. I think probably what happened is somebody did I think in our staff reports addresses this, maybe there was a retrofit back enough decades that it used to look a little bit nicer, and then they swapped the door out with something even less appropriate, left the fan light in there. But I think to have that style of door shortened enough to accommodate a fan light transom like that makes the doors proportionately not quite normal for that kind of situation. That's where I'm going with it. And yeah, maybe there's a slight chance that fan light, it was the quirky house where they did that at the beginning, but I kind of doubt it.
So that was my thinking as well, and therefore, while there may have been confusion about whether the approval to put in the double doors included removal of the fan light, I think I would have understood that it did, although if we did not address that specifically when we granted this certificate, that was probably carelessness on our part. But my conclusion, particularly looking at the replacement doors, which are appropriate to the house and appropriate size, they belong there, in my opinion, without the fan light, and therefore we should grant the certificate for the doors as they now stand.
Yeah, this is Adam Wiley, I guess, just from kind of the contract lesson learned. I'd agree with Dick that, there does need to be a clarification. In my mind, when I think of front doors, I think of, front door units, which oftentimes include transoms or side lights. So I can see how there was confusion. And, even I think as the owner said, the framing and the rough opening includes, what used to be the transom, and maybe there were side lights. There used to be these strange little voids. Yeah, I think this is more just, I can understand the confusion. I think of front door units as a unit, and I can see why the fan light may have been. And I echo what everybody else said about perhaps it wasn't original and the new doors look great. So I'll just agree with everybody else there.
I don't, I guess it's a name of whatever word we use, but to me, the fan light would not have been part of the, like it's a door is the door leaf. But it depends on whether we approve the door or the doorway or the entry, you know, that I would have to go back and see the language of it. So I
Yeah,
can
I
see
think
why
that's
this
the word.
kicked in a concern there because there was something old looking that normally a fan light would, well, not normally, but often it would be separated by a little bit more girth than that from the door. And I think, in fact, the house right across the street from this, which has the room for a transom light, and it's got, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 feet higher and the ceiling, so it could actually accommodate it. There'd be a nice horizontal mullion between them.
And my guess is, Eric, that the house across the street, which I didn't look at, if it has a transom light, it's not in the form of a fan light, just really
No,
not
it's
appropriate for a house
it's
like
covered
that.
up. It was covered up. It's not restored, so it's just a panel.
Okay. My
Anybody's
guess
guess.
would be that it would have been a rectangular light and not a fan light.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, how about you, Ryan, Mr. Falvey? Do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I agree with the sentiment that's been shared by others. I think it's unfortunate about some of the confusion that resulted here. But I think, you know, when you look at the double doors that are there, I think they're beautiful, and in particular the effort that Mr. Javor put into. They were retrieved or found up in Maine and brought down here and placed in. I mean, accolades for that. I think it's a significant upgrade over the door that was replaced. So I'm fully happy with what I'm seeing right now.
Thank you, Ryan. The fan light was a very nice looking fan light, so whoever found it probably got a nice salvage one. So I think that for future reference, that it really is something that should have been brought to us as a item, I think, and I can see why it's considered part of the entryway, but I think all's well that ends well in this particular case. Anybody? I guess that's it. 4 of us. Anything else? Pull up the staff report again here. Lost it. Okay, well, are we prepared to vote on this?
Do it.
All right. So we're going to vote to approve a certificate of appropriateness for the doors as installed. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I know in your staff report, you had some comments about options to truncate the doors and put a fan light back and all that. I don't think we're leaning towards doing that. So I think we'll just grant the certificate of appropriateness for the doors, and that would be it, I believe.
Yes, the procedural ones might still be there about filing the certificate of appropriateness, but the ones about replacing and the ones having to do with the door, those will be removed.
Okay. So all in favor of granting the certificate of appropriateness for the replacement doors and the removal of the fan light? Actually, it's the fan light we're approving. That for the removal of the fan light, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Nobody? Roll call, Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Falvey,
Yeah.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well, Eric. So I think that's it. Thank you for coming to us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. That leaves us with 16 Woodbine. Do we still not have an applicant anymore for that?
I don't believe so. I've been emailing with him and we can't figure out the audio issues.
So
Is it
Can he call in?
I gave him the instructions for that. Let me also, if you're okay with waiting a couple minutes, I can try to work
Sure.
a couple more minutes with him.
Can we go over what's left, the minutes and the CPC update?
Yes.
Maybe we should read the minutes and address that while we wait.
Good
So
idea.
I've not read them yet. Has everybody read the meeting minutes for August? This is the meeting where I had to leave in a hurry.
Yes.
Any revisions?
None from me.
I didn't see any, except that I'm called Mount Parks and not Mr. in one spot, but I guess that doesn't really change who I am.
There were,
Oh,
I think, a number of typos, but we probably shouldn't try and go through sort of one by one, but the one that Eric mentioned is one. I think his name is being spelled without an E. In some places near the bottom of page 2, it says a motion to declare the structure was put by Ms. Kelly, but it doesn't say to declare it what. Then the next sentence, it says the commissioners voted to declare it preferably preserved. So I think without going through those one by one, if we could just ask to have that kind of stuff cleaned up in the final version.
Yes, we can do that.
But I didn't have anything else in it.
Should we then approve these meetings as amended and to be amended, suggested by Mr. Bauer? I mean, it leaves a little bit open, but I mean, the substance of the meetings to me is acceptable. It's just the syntax. I think we can do that, can't we?
So I would make a motion to approve the minutes with the typos and word I was corrected.
Okay, I'd second that. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes.
Roll call, Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
and I, Eric, vote, or Mr. Parks vote yes. Oh, and Mr. Wiley, did you read the minutes? Did you?
Well, I was not present at the meeting, so I'll recuse myself.
Okay. So you abstain then from the vote?
Yes.
All right,
Hopefully
so
that
it's,
doesn't mess things up. I think we still have 4, so it's good.
no, I think we're good. We have 4 voting for it and 1 abstention for approving the August minutes. With the changes, there's some clerical issues with some spellings and fixing up a few spots. All right, do we have an applicant yet for 16 Woodbine?
No, so my his last communication to staff was that he just can't get his audio to work. So we will need to continue this item to the October meeting, so that way he can comment on his project.
Okay, and he's willing to do that?
I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure that we can do that because we need to act on his application within a certain amount of time.
I believe
Do
you
we
can,
know how much time?
Yes, it's 30 days that it needs to be an actionable item needs to be taken on it. So you would need to vote to continue it to the next item. And I will put Charlotte on the spot if she has anything to add to that while she's listening, because she has a little bit more experience than I do.
This is Charlotte.
I'm not sure that we can. I'm sorry, Charlotte, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm not sure that we can continue it without permission and agreement of the applicant.
I would suggest, I don't know HPC regulations to the same extent, but I know that the safest option would be, Wendy, if you want to have the applicant send an email requesting in writing a continuance due to technical issues and a continuance to the October 20th meeting, whatever October date meeting it is.
October 19th.
October 19th. And then the board or the commission could vote to continue it to that date.
And would he also?
Are we in touch with him now by? Are we in touch with him now by email?
Yes, I just wrote him another email.
Okay.
He's fairly fast at responding.
Okay.
Just hypothetically,
So
if he backed out of that arrangement, we would have to scramble and arrange a quick meeting, I guess, to vote on it within the 30-day period.
So let's see whether he responds this evening, so we will have that.
Can he grant us, he could grant us permission to review this tonight without his participation, correct? If he didn't want to continue this to October? I mean, he's been through this before with us, correct?
Yes,
I think more, not only could he, I think, give us permission, but I think we would be obligated to do it tonight if we don't get permission from him to continue it to the next month.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my concern, as Dick mentioned, that if for some reason he backed out of that, I don't know where a 30-day period is, how long ago he submitted it, but we'd have to advertise a meeting, and what do we need, a 48 hours, something like that?
We would need,
This is Charlotte speaking. If we were to continue it tonight and then take it up prior to that continued time period, I think we would need to re-advertise it, which would take 3 weeks. That is the benefit of getting his permission to continue in writing. I don't know that he could, in writing, express his permission to continue and then tomorrow be like, actually, never mind. I told you I was happy to continue, but now I'm not.
Okay.
I don't know
But
that that would.
as long as we have it in writing, though.
Yes,
correct,
if we have it in writing, I think we're safe.
So I would, kind of following up with Mr. Bauer here, Dick, is if we don't have something in writing from him, we think we have to vote on it. Oh, I see a hand up.
we just got the email requesting a continuance to the October meeting in writing.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right.
now the HPC just needs to vote on that.
All in favor of allowing a continuation of 16 Woodbine Street, HPC DMO 2021.20 till the next to the October hearing? Say aye.
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 Opposed? Roll call, Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Mr. Falvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
I vote yes as well, Eric Parks. So that settles that for tonight at least. The only other thing on our list is the CPC update, and this, I don't recall, wasn't Alan handling that? Who would be giving us that?
He is handling that, so I don't believe we will be having a CPC update because I have nothing to update you with.
Okay. So doesn't require any action anyway. Anything else that I've missed?
That is everything that staff had for you.
Well, okay then. I guess we'll adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting,
The motion to adjourn the meeting.
right?
I will
Second.
second that.
Okay, seconded by Robin. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I guess we'll take the whole vote here. Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Alvey,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kelly,
Yes.
and Mr. Wiley. And
Yes.
I vote yes as well. So there we have it. I guess we're done with the meeting.
Right.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you,
All right,
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Wendy and Charlotte.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.